In this video, I'm going to talk about causative verbs. Causative verbs are a group of verbs in English that usually includes the verbs have, make, let, help, and get. Sometimes you will see a few other verbs added. Sometimes you might see a few left out. But these are the verbs usually, these 5 verbs that are generally included in a discussion of causative verbs. So what is a causative verb? Well, the word causative has the word cause, and that gives you the idea, which I have right here. In a causative verb situation, the subject does not do the action in the sentence, but the subject causes the action to happen. So it's not like a passive verb where the subject does nothing and the subject only receives. No, the subject causes something to happen, but the subject does not do the action themselves. They have, make, let another person do it. The object in the sentence, if it is an active causative verb, then the object does the action. And we will look at these examples. If it is a passive causative, then the object receives the action. That's the basic rule for active versus passive. So let's look at this. When you are using the causative verbs, you will need to have a subject first, of course, and then you have one of the causative verbs, which can be in any verb tense. It depends on the situation. Are you talking about right now? That's present progressive. In the past, maybe simple past, maybe present perfect. That depends on your situation, but here I am using the simple past. As I said, you need to decide the correct verb tense in each sentence. Then you have the object, and as I mentioned, the object does the action. Here's the action I'm talking about. And this needs to be in the base form only. No past, no simple present. The base form is what you see in the dictionary. And then if this verb takes a direct object, then you need to have your direct object. So the first one, I had my son wash the car. I didn't wash the car. Who washed it? My son. Why? Because I told him to. Usually the verb have just means that you ask or tell somebody to do something and they do it. This is very commonly used in work situations, parent, child, teacher, student, some kind of authority situation, or just a situation where somebody asks and the other person does it. It's a very neutral meaning. I use it a lot talking about my students. I had my students do the exercises. I told them to do it and they did it. That's all. Okay, I made my son wash the car has a different idea. When you use make, it means that the object is unwilling, but doesn't have a choice. The object must do it. The object is required to do it, forced to do it. So my son maybe didn't want to wash the car, but I made my son wash the car. He didn't have a choice. Sometimes this is also used a little more neutrally to just talk about cause and effect using make, like the movie made me laugh. And that doesn't have a meaning of require or force, but it has the idea that the object does it without choosing to do it. It's a result that the object didn't control. So that's also a possibility. Then we have let. I let my son wash the car. What does this mean? Let gives the idea of permission. It means that my son wanted to do this. My son maybe asked me, and I gave my permission. I allowed it to happen. That's the meaning with let. I let my son wash the car. So kind of the opposite idea of made. Made usually means he didn't want to do it. Let means he wanted to do it. Maybe I didn't want it, but then I said, okay, you can do it. All right. I helped my son wash the car. You know the meaning of help, I believe. So assist, do it together, or make it easier, make it possible. I helped my son wash the car. Help is an interesting verb because it can be used with the base form, but it can also be used with the infinitive. I helped my son to wash the car. Is there any difference in the meaning? No. It's the same meaning. In my experience, or in my dialect of English, this is a little bit more common, but you can use either one. We have another causative verb, get, and it requires an infinitive after it. So help can do either one. All of these need a base form, but get uses an infinitive. I got my son to wash the car. You can't say I got my son wash the car. What's the idea of get? Get gives the idea that something required skill or effort, my skill, my effort, to convince, to persuade my son to do this. Maybe my son didn't want to do it, so I offered him money and then he did it. Or I told him why it would be a good idea and then he decided to do it because of what I said. So it requires my effort to make it happen. Get is an extremely common verb in English. You're probably familiar with that. We're going to see a lot more get over here on the passive side and some other things. So let's move over here. Here the object receives the action. The car is not doing this, the car is receiving. I had the car washed. So who washed the car? When you use the passive, you usually don't know or you don't say who did it because it's not the focus. The focus here is the car. We really don't care who did it. Somebody did it at the car wash place, or maybe the machine at the car wash place did it. But it means I caused it to happen and the car received it. I got the car washed. Notice something? Here, both of these use the same form. When it's active, these are different. This uses the base and get uses the infinitive. But in the passive, they both use the past participle. That's the idea, you know, with the passive, you usually use the verb be and then a past participle. So past participles usually come with an idea of receiving action when you're using them as adjectives or in passive verbs. Same thing here. It shows that this received the action. It doesn't matter if you use have or get. There's no idea here of convincing or persuading. This idea is special for the active form. It does not have that idea in the passive. I got my car washed, I had my car washed are the same. They both mean I drove to the car wash and I drove through the machine or something like that. Now, I'm calling this a semi-causative because the subject is doing the action, but it has this idea really that you're getting yourself to do something. It requires skill or effort to cause yourself to do something. So it's like you're causing yourself to do it. I got my work finished. It means maybe it wasn't easy. It took skill. It took effort. We still use the verb get. We still have an object that receives the action, and we still have a past participle here. But it's different because the subject, I actually am doing this action. So this is a possibility that you will see only with get. As I said, get is extremely common in English. I wanted to put a few other situations where you will see get, just so you don't get confused. Aha, get confused. That right there could be an example of a non-causative passive with get. So it is a passive verb, but it is not the causative passive. My car got washed. Who did it? We don't know. And there's no idea of causative here. Who caused it to happen? We don't know. Those ideas are not here. The only idea is that my car received the washing. This is just a regular passive verb. Passive verbs usually use the verb be plus a past participle, but they can also use get in many situations. And you can look at my other video or other information to get more about that. Also, get can be used with an adjective, and it means to become. So I got ready quickly. I became ready. It got dark early. So don't get too confused when you see other uses of get. Not everything with get is causative. You do have causatives here and here, and they are very useful, and they are very commonly used. So start listening for them when you listen to other people, when you read books, look for them, and start trying to use them yourself. Good luck.